All right. Welcome back. Um, I can see that some of you are still enjoying their coffee and or lunch. So I think we'll wait some minutes to really get back to the event. Now we're at 6. We're getting more. Perfect. And yeah, so let's wait 10 minutes. Please stay online in Zoom. For all of you who are still online in spatial chat, if we while we're not using spatial, you can just end the just close the window or delete the tab. Otherwise, our 3 minutes will be spent on an empty room, which would be a pity because then we would need to use the backup. So yeah. Hi, Carlo. Welcome back. Like I already said, we will wait like 5 to 10 more minutes until everyone is back and ready to go. I always have my little laptop here so I can check how many people are here. So that's why I'm always shifting between camera and my left side. Hi, Sarah. Sarah is back. And we're getting more and more. Perfect. In the meanwhile, we can talk about how the next hours will be spent. I already mentioned that our next big guests will be the Ocean Summit from Kiel. They will tell us about 4 super interesting and relevant ocean science topics, and they will go into depth. And so you will have a good basis for your later work when the hackathon officially starts. Right now, we're just chatting, right? Right now, it's not serious. We're getting into depth later. And after the input from the Ocean Summit, you will have the chance to do some brainstorming. We have something special prepared, especially for you today, so you can have some thoughts on your own and later in a group. And we'll collect these thoughts on Miro, but I will explain all of that later. And then you will have the chance, of course, to ask questions, because after we started the hackathon, you will be on your own. Not completely, but mostly. And so then will be the chance to ask questions. And then we have another coffee break where you are really asked to team up to communicate, to get to really get together within spatial chat, and maybe with the combination of Miro, but all of that will be explained later. Right, and after the coffee break, we'll have a little checkout, so you will be able to, again, ask questions. If there's something to organize, we can still organize everything, and then we will start hacking. So I can see we're still missing some, so we'll kind of here's not Ann-Kathrin is coming in. Yeah, so we'll have to wait a little bit further. What else is to say? In the lunch break, Sarah and I were talking, and we talked about the opportunities of having such an event. And I yeah, we found that we haven't seen something like motion design or animation hackathon so far. So I'm still quite confident that this might be the first one ever. uh, don't please, if you find, if you know better, know it better, then tell me. Uh, and so I think the most important or the biggest profit for you guys will be that we might continue with events like these in the future and create a strong community, a strong science communication community with the technical basis of motion design around Kiel and the network here. Because we have, with the Mathias University of Arts and Design, you already know that from our keynote from Tom Dusha, we have a strong focus on science communication in Kiel, and a strong place or university where you can explore these fields of design. And why is that? And we found, Sarah and I found that that the reason might be that the Kiel as a city, it's just a small city, is a place where you have industry like the marine industry and the military industry on the one hand side, and on the other hand you have lots of science institutions like the Geoma, the Helmholtz Institute, or the UKSH, which is the clinic of the universe, of the universe, right? No, the clinic of the university clinic. So um, there's lots of science going on here, and we don't have lots of entertainment industry here, such as in Berlin, Düsseldorf, or Hamburg, or Munich. So, and around this fields, we can might be able to expand and connect further after this event. So now we're getting more and more. Carlo is also back, Katja is back, and Micha is here, so perfect. So we can keep on going. I hope Alexandra will also come back to us. But yeah, let's see if we can expand a little bit. And yeah, at 1 o'clock, we will have our next guests here, which will be the Ocean Summit. Just a little bit information up front. The Ocean Summit is a unity of an organization of scientists and ocean lovers, and it was founded in 2020, which was not probably, well, who never could know that, was not the best time to maybe to found something like that, but because they wanted to base their spread of knowledge and passion around events. And so, but they were super productive, and they super innovative, and so they started workshops, exhibitions, lectures, all online and also offline. They had lots of cool events in the past few months. But of course, they focused on digital outreach, such as through the website. They posted articles about ocean science, interviews. They have right now. They have a really interesting podcast going on. So be sure to check out their Instagram account and stay tuned, because there's lots of cool things happening. I will post the Instagram account of the Ocean Summit in the chat later. Of course, they're posting videos. And they support hackathons. So I'm checking the clock here. Still 20 minutes until the Ocean Summit will enter our chat. And they will talk about their topics today. So about 4 scientific topics, which you can later choose from and work together. They will later during the hackathon, they will be here for you during the mentoring sessions. We will have a mentoring session tomorrow at 3 p.m. and on Sunday at 1 p.m. Where you can ask questions. I will be there as well, and they will keep providing you with information that you might need to create your visualizations. Like I said, the topics they focus on are, of course, the ocean, but also the climate change, fishery, reduction of trashing, and so on. So lots of really interesting and urgent topics concerning the future of our oceans. But like I said, in a few more minutes, they will tell you more about that. For now, we can use the next 15 minutes to ask some questions if you have any questions regarding the next days. Is there anything that comes to your mind where you say, okay, how should we do that? How does it work? What do you think?
It's more a question about the organization and the...
One moment. Sorry, we need to crank up the volume here. Yeah. Okay, I think it should work now.
Can I talk?
Perfect. Yeah.
Super. It's more about the organization and the link to the spatial platform, because I didn't get it, or because the last one didn't work on my computer. So maybe if you can send the link again.
We put the link into the chat, into Zoom, and it's, yeah, the first link didn't work, unfortunately, but this one should. We tested it again.
Okay, then I have another look.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And already, yeah, here it is again. And I'm using Chrome. I don't know how it works with Safari or other extensions or apps. So yeah, if it doesn't work, please tell me so we can figure something out. And within spatial, well, we're using up 3 minutes with every minute we're spending. So if the time is up, kind of, I think we have about 10,000 minutes for free, which is quite a lot. We will still have the backup room. As we still have some minutes left before Ocean Summit will join us, let's take a chance and let's go through the Miro board, and I can also show you some a space where I have all the links posted if you haven't already found that. So we're here in Miro. Oops, no, that's not, that wasn't intended. So, right. In Miro, I already have created like a little path, and we will go through each frame step by step. And down here, if anything goes wrong, you have the opportunity to get all the links again. So we have the Zoom link for the upcoming days, Friday till Sunday. Sunday morning, you can still use this link. On Sunday afternoon, like at 4 4 p.m. when the final presentation will start. We will use that link. So I created 2 links so we won't have any unpleasant visitors before the hackathon is over. So this is just really just for us, and only you as participant can join this room. Then, of course, we have the spatial spaces. Space number 1 is always the space that we will use until the 3 minutes are consumed. Otherwise, you can still jump into that one. I mean, later, if you want to chat within your team, you can still use both chats. I think we are not so many participants and not so many people to consume all the 3 minutes. And then I posted you some possibilities to share data. I mean, you are all professionals on certain levels, and I think you all know specific ways to send data and to communicate with a team. So this is just an example that you could use. I've got this Google Drive which you can use, which doesn't have a lot of free space, but if you have to transfer quick small data, then you can use that one. Otherwise, you can still use WeTransfer or any other tool you want to use. And when it really gets tricky for you, then you can still call me, but please use this number only in a really big emergency. I will try to be accessible and any minute, but of course, if you have any questions at 2 a.m. in the morning, I might not be available. Otherwise, you can still give me a text, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Also, I would like to encourage you again to use Miro to go through the work, to also, if you would like to post your contact information in here, whether it's your email address or Instagram account, just for the others to be able to contact you during the next hours. So you will have a basis to communicate. And also, it might be interesting to, again, go through each visual and have a basis to chat in the next hours. Also, go through the stinky fish notes. For those who haven't added something, please try to still go on Miro and take a sticky note and show the other participants what makes you uneasy when you think about the future of the oceans. Get rid of your anxieties, share your anxieties to get rid of them, get rid of the stinky fish in your pocket. That's really helpful, I think. And yeah, and then we will have our input presentation. So here you will have more information, detailed information, links and questions that might be interesting for your work later. And of course, we're going to have a little brainstorming session, and you can put sticky notes on each topic that might interest you. But that's a little step ahead. We will, for now, go back to Zoom. And because I already saw that our first guest, our first member of the Ocean Summit is already with us. And I will just check if, double check, yeah. And hi, Stephanie.
Hello, I'm a little bit early.
Perfect timing, I would say. We were early as well because, yeah, sometimes you get quicker through all the ice-breaking sessions. So now we are already here and ready to listen to you and your colleagues. But maybe, if you don't mind, maybe you could already tell us a little bit more about the Ocean Summit and about your role. That would be perfect if it's okay for you.
Yes, of course, no problem. Yeah, my name is Stephanie Suthaus. I'm a marine biologist, and I studied marine biology in Kiel and in Odense in Denmark. So quite a few years ago, and I also worked as a scientist at the Geomar Institute here in Kiel. Since 2012, I'm at the NGO Bund für Umwelt und Naturschutz Deutschland here in Schleswig-Holstein. And I'm responsible for the political questions. So I'm working with aquaculture, which is quite a topic from time to time in Schleswig-Holstein, or with marine mammal questions, with fisheries, stuff like that, which is important in Schleswig-Holstein, and it pops up from time to time. And I'm also managing different projects, mainly regarding the Baltic Sea protection, but also, of course, North Sea projects. And since early last year, actually, it started in January last year, I'm part of the Ocean Summit team. And Ocean Summit is an environmental education and networking platform which deals mainly with marine topics, but also with topics connected to marine problems like climate change or fresh water, because all the rivers end in the seas. So it's all connected, because it's the oceans are a basin for everything. So everything is part of it somehow. Yes, and we offer with the Ocean Summit, together with many partners, we are more than 60 partners right at the moment, all of them dealing with marine protection in some field. Yeah, and we offer formats like discussions, like storytelling events, workshops like snorkeling, making waste collecting on the beach. It's very different, actually. It's for all ages, so everybody finds something which should be interesting. So it's always worth to have a look at our homepage, www.ocean-summit.de. And yeah, today we are part here of the Mocean hackathon. So it was very nice, and the idea when you came forward to us, Matthias. So that is a nice opportunity to get to know each other. And yeah, so we try today to give you an input to mainly 4 topics related to marine protection. The first one will be fisheries and connected problems. The second one will be aquaculture, because it's somehow connected to each other. One will be waste in the ocean, and the last one is climate change and geoengineering. So you will hear presentation to introduce you in all the 4 topics. And I think then you can decide by yourself which topics is the most interesting to you. And my colleagues, Peter, Franca, and Celia, who will join me in a moment, are here for you if you have any further questions throughout the day or also on the weekend. And yeah, we are looking forward very much how you will work and what will come out in the end.
Yeah, well, thank you for the introduction of the Ocean Summit. I see that Franca Bülow is also joining us. Hi, Franca. Nice to have you here.
Hey.
We already got a little introduction into the Ocean Summit and what you do. And yeah, I'm super excited and curious what we will receive at the end of the 48 hours. And I already mentioned it, and I would just want to repeat it. Because we already saw some really amazing science visualizations by the SciComm lab, Science Communication Lab. And so to take out the pressure, you will, most important for this event will be that you are having fun, that you connect to each other, you connect with the topics. And I think any kind of creative output will be just more than we can expect, like more than we want to expect. So no pressure, just have fun and create. And I'm really looking forward to your presentations about the topics, on the topics. So Franca, maybe you just want to quickly introduce yourself. What's your role within the Ocean Summit, and what are you doing to protect our seas and yeah, to spread your love?
Absolutely. Yeah, hi, my name is Franca. I am a political scientist, so I'm actually not focused, or I haven't focused on the ocean all my life or all my career, at least. So I work at the CAU, the Christian Albrechts Universität zu Kiel, as a postdoc in the political science department, and I work on resilience and transformation. So mostly I look at the questions surrounding why and how do we change in relationship to climate changes. And of course, climate change and ocean change, that is a two-way street. So I could not ignore the ocean. And I also really love being in the water. I love surfing, love swimming, so I've always felt connected to the water. And then when I moved to New Zealand, I'm now no longer living there, unfortunately, but when I moved to New Zealand, I started working on extreme events in relation to the ocean and climate change. So that sort of brought me a little bit closer research-wise. And when I came back to Germany, I felt like I needed to do a little bit more than just study the topic. And then fortunately, Steffi and Peter Wiebe, who will join us shortly, introduced me to the Ocean Summit and hired me to become their community manager. And since April last year, I'm doing that. So I'm connecting people. I'm trying to find out what their stories are. I'm trying to find out why they love the ocean, and try and bring them together to protect our ocean. So that is basically what I do for the Ocean Summit, but also for the Ocean Family, which is a network of, well, ocean lovers, so to speak. Yeah, and I'm excited for the event. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you. And you organized another little event that took place in the beginning of this week on Monday. Maybe you could just give us a little insight on that. What did you, what happened there?
Yeah. So what did we do? We did. I organized together with my colleagues. I organized a storytelling event. I don't know if any of you have heard of Patrikios before, but that was the basic idea. We wanted to bring Patrikios to Kiel. But then we decided to not use the name. Patrikios is Japanese and means chit chat. So basically, a format to better communicate and to make an exchange of ideas a little bit shorter and more poised. And what they usually do is they have 20 slides, 20 seconds each, and then you tell a story about something that you're passionate about. And what we wanted was stories about the ocean, and we called this Mein Meer moment, so my ocean moment. And we've heard from 12 different people, Mathias included, about why they love the ocean. And that was actually all that and more that I had expected and hoped for, because there was so much love for the ocean in the room, so much inspiration that we could get from the different speakers, because they talked about not just what they feel when they're in the water, but also what they do to protect it. And that was, I think, a great event to just network and share stories and experiences and stuff like that. And we're hoping to do that more regularly. So if you're ever in the mood to share your story, feel free. to get in touch, I would love to hear it. And that's basically what we did then on Monday. And hopefully soon we can do that in one room all together without Zoom. As nice as it is to have Zoom, but yeah. So that was the event on Monday, and we're also still collecting ocean moments. When you feel like sharing yours, please do so. We're just collecting them via Instagram with the hashtag #MeinMehrMoment. Yeah.
Yeah, we can put down the hashtag into the chat, so you can use that on Instagram. You might create something in the next few hours, who knows, some shareable content that also includes your ocean moment, who knows.
And I see that the team is complete now.
Yeah,
that's great.
Hi Silja and hi Peter. Nice to have you here. Welcome to Motion. Silja, I can hear the birds. That must be your garden.
That's me.
That's always so nice. That's always so nice when you're in a chat, though. You can always hear the birds, and it seems like a really good and really nice place.
I can't help to sit outside when it's that nice of the weather here in Kiel.
Can't blame you. Yeah, well, maybe, hi Peter, maybe you two could also shortly introduce your role with the Ocean Summit, so the participants can get to know you better. And yeah, who wants to start? Peter, would you like to start?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, my name is Peter Wiebe. I'm a marine biologist, and I'm working for the Heinrich Böll Foundation here in Schleswig-Holstein. This is a political green foundation in Germany, and yeah, I'm responsible for the Ocean Atlas. You might know or have heard of. It's in the links we provided you. That's the work we did with the excellence cluster Future Ocean here at GEOMA and Kiel University. And yes, I'm from the start away in the Ocean Summit team. I initiated this project, and yeah, I'm really proud how much we did last year and this year as well with our program. And yeah, I'm really excited to experience this new form of working in this hackathon. I'm excited to give a little input for you, and yeah, what the results might be. Very interesting, because I have no experience of such formats. So yeah, that's about me.
Thank you for the little insight. And for all of you, we will provide the links to the Ocean Atlas on the Miro board. But I will get to that after the presentation, okay? So Silja, maybe you also would like to share some information about yourself.
Oh, maybe my connection is not the best right now, but I'm just going to start, and I hope that all of you will get me. So I'm Silja. I'm a young biologist. I've just really recently graduated here at Kiel University, and I had the pleasure to work in a really, really cool international research program, which is called GAME at the GeoMar. And that is where I kind of got my specialization in marine biology, because I worked in South Africa with microplastics and mussels, and yeah, was part of this cool experience where we worked at several different places all around the world and collected kind of a global data set about how different mussel species dealt with microplastics exposure. And we had the chance to present this data, and this was yeah, really cool. So I'm kind of into plastic pollution. I worked a lot with this, and this is going to be the topic I'm going to tell you a little bit about today. And I'm really excited to see what you guys will do out of this information we are going to tell you about.
Cool. Thank you very much. And yeah, you already mentioned the presentations. Would we let's just start. So who
Happy to start.
of you will share the screen?
If that's fine, I can already share the screen and show you the presentation.
Yes, so the
Let me
stage
just
is
set
yours.
this up.
Have fun.
Great. Thank you. Wait, let me just bring this to the front and make it full screen. Okay.
Peter, du kannst auch die Fernbedienung beantragen, ne? Unter Optionen rechts oben neben Sie sehen den Bildschirm von Franka Bülow, dann kannst du selber weiterklicken.
Okay, thank you.
Steffi, ihr seht ja nur meine Folien so jetzt, ne? Noch nicht die zweite, wenn ich weiterklicke, oder?
Noch ist bei mir schwarz.
Genau, bei mir auch.
Okay, now just share this again. Okay. So this works now.
Perfect.
Okay. So, sorry. Okay, great. So we call this Let's Move Some Pixels for the Sea, and we're really excited to be part of the Mocean challenge here, the Hacking Ocean Science Challenge. So thank you for having us. We've already done this here. We've inserted a slide to say, let's get to know our team. So you see all of us here. But then the contents today, we're going to talk about fisheries. That is, Peter will present something on fisheries. Zia will talk about ocean pollution. Steffi will talk about aquaculture, and I will finish off with some information on climate change and geoengineering. But there are many, many more issues that are sort of, they touch upon these 4 or 5 issues that we're presenting today. So please bear with us. We can't talk about everything that is going wrong with the ocean, but we've picked out 4 examples that are specifically interesting and that we're dealing with this year as part of the Ocean Summit. So Peter, stage is yours.
Thank you, Franka. Just couldn't find the mute button in this mode. So again, thank you for having me. I'm telling you something about the world's fisheries today. And now, there's a little time lag in the remote control, obviously. Okay. First of all, fish and fisheries is one of the most important food supply on our planet. It's the most important protein source for about 1.3 billion people. And a lot of people are employed in these in the fisheries. About 12 million people do their living with artisanal fisheries. That is the small scale coastal fisheries. And 500,000 people are employed in the industrial fisheries, which is more or less the high seas industrial ships. And interestingly, the industrial fisheries outcompete the artisanal fisheries by the amount of catch they do due to the advanced fishery gear the industrial fishers use, the fish finders, the special sonar systems, and stuff like that. They outcompete the artisanal fishery by the amount of catch on a global scale. So these are the basic facts, and the fisheries causes a lot of problems in the ocean and in the seas. We have a lot of overfishing, which we'll get into detail on the further slides, and we have a lot of destructive methods of fishing, like demersal trawls, which destroys the seafloor, for example, or long line fishing, which has a lot of bycatch, catching the wrong species, and a lot of lost fishing gear is that's part of the ocean pollution, on which Celia talk about, and these ghost nets or something, they keep on catching even if they're lost, and that's a whole problem. These are very destructive methods of fishing, and there are a lot of more you wouldn't believe, but in some regions of the world, the practice of fishing with dynamite or poison is still used, is still in common. It's forbidden, but it is done. Okay, we have the problem of bycatch and discard. Bycatch is the amount of species caught unintentionally. So you want to catch one kind of fish or shrimp or whatever, and you catch a lot of other species which you don't want, and some of it you can't even is unmarkable, so you can't sell it. It won't be landed. It goes overboard, and all these species, or most of it, will die or are dying when they are thrown back to the sea. So this is a huge impact on other species. And yeah, this overthrown is a discard, is meant by that. That is also included the wrong sizes of fish, or because as a fisherman you have to catch in a size class. Young fish you're not allowed to land on, and other species. So this discard is what is thrown overboard, and in most of cases not landed. And these fishes mostly don't survive the catches in the nets or whatever. So this is a lot of destruction for the seas there and the species. And on top of that, there's another phenomena. It's IUU fisheries. It's called illegal, unreported, and unregulated fisheries. That is, in easier words, it is robbery. It is piracy. This is robbed fish from protected areas, or even not the right time to fish, because some fishing grounds are to protect the species. They are protected over time, so you have only a few time slots to catch fish there. And these EUU fisheries are a huge problem. It's estimated that about 1/3 of global catch is done by IUU fisheries, which is a lot. It's about 26 million tons of fish, and this lands on our table, on our plate, and we can't recognize it, because it has its way to be hidden in the market and in the sales line, and you won't find it out. It's a huge problem to get rid of these IUU fisheries. Okay, that's the problems. So now I'm going to show you some graphs here from the Ocean Atlas, based on the FAO report, the Food and Agriculture report of 2016, and these are the fish stocks of beobachtet. Helft mir mal.
Observed?
Observed, that's the word. Thank you, Silja. Observed by the FAO, and you can see here over 30% of the fish stocks are overfished. This is the red line here, the red box, and the blue color is what is maximum fish, so that you can't get any more fish out. It will be overfished there, and only 10% is underfished, where you can fish some more out of it. So it's dramatically 90% of global fish is over or at its border of fishing amount. And here you have the same graph. This is from the newest FAO report, which we will provide you in the links. So only that you can see the further graph was from the database of 2014, and so this is the database of 2017. And I just wanted to show you that there's no change to the good way. It's going to be the same, and the unsustainable overfished stocks are a little increasing, as obviously here. Next slide. This is the world capture fisheries for the whole amount of fish which is captured at the global seas. This is the orange field here. This is the marine capture. And what I want to show you here is that, as you can see, since 1980s, 1986, there's it's kind of reached a baseline. Yeah, you see, there's no increase in fish stocks, fish catches possible here. It stays the same over the last 30 to 40 years. The only increase is in aquaculture, which you see here. And the same you can see in the per capita consumption on a global scale in kilograms here on the left scale. On a global scale, the blue is the capture fisheries, so the fish that comes from capture on our plates. And you see the same as I showed you in the slide before. Since 1974, there's no increase, even a slight decrease in the amount of caught fish on the ocean, which will be consumed, is for human consumption. But you see a huge amount of increase in aquaculture production, and that is not a solution to overfishing, but that is the topic which will be discussed by Steffi later. So I won't go into further details here. And this especially has no other problems on which will be discussed by Steffi. Who catches the fish? There are a lot of nations which have high seas trawls. This is marked here at the bottom of this graph. The top 10 countries which catch the most amount of on the high seas. You have here, it is in 1,000 metric tons, so that's a lot which these 10 nations fish from the high seas. And you have in the yellow bars describe the FAO fishing regions and the amount as well in 1,000 metric tons, which is caught here in these areas. And as well, you have here on the nation colors again the consumption per capita. So you see there where is the most fish caught and where is it eaten in this graphic. So again, it's from the Ocean Atlas. So if you're interested in that, you will find it there. we can, you can go there into the details. And the overfishing, it's one of the most important problems for the decline of biodiversity in the oceans, as you see in this graph, which is again from the Ocean Atlas, but from another from another theme. But you see here which the decline of special species like sea turtles and sharks is in the last centuries. This is based on historical sources. So it's over 96% decline of sea turtles and 87% of sharks, which you can see here. So it has a great impact on the biodiversity and species amount in the ocean. So the fisheries cause a lot of problems, and we have to there has to be a lot of work done, even as well as especially on the politics. It's really hard on a international governmental scale to get the problem done there. The fisheries has to be the catch quota has to be quoted. The catch quota has to be based on the scientific recommendation and the maximum sustainable yield. That has to be the goal. The maximum sustainable yield is the amount of catch you can make from one stock. That is not a decline in the population in the further years. So you can even that is the most this is the maximum you can catch sustainable. This is the goal, and it has the politics has to be based on the scientific recommendations for the catch quota, which is mostly not done because of economic interests, which has the further impact there on the politics. Sorry. I have no where's I can't go back. Who has captured my remote control? Celia? Okay, the last topics was the.
I think Celia, you're going the wrong way. So yeah. Celia has the remote control.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just gave it up. I don't know how to go back in the slides.
It's no problem. It's only the last 2 points where we have to have huge protected areas in the global ocean. No take zones where the fish stocks have the possibility to rehabilitate themselves, and where no fisheries can be done. This must be the goal. Up to 30 to 50% of the global ocean must be under protection. And the last point is I don't have the last point. I lost my. Can you give me back my last slide? No. So I'll look it afterwards. And
Franka, can you just go back one of? I'm not sure how. I can't really go back in there.
That's fine.
There it is.
Sorry, this was not on purpose, Peter. I just thought this would be a smooth way for me.
Okay.
Yeah. This was not on purpose, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think, Peter, you've already said it, that the IUU fisheries have to be ended. And
yes.
So yeah, if it's easier, maybe then I can just click through the slides, then we don't have this issue of going back and forth.
Yeah, maybe that's better. I don't know. I also was not really able to unmute myself, so I couldn't.
That's because of the remote sharing. So let's just do it this way. I'm just going to take.
It's fine. I think we can do this.
So sorry, guys.
Sorry, Peter, for the.
Yeah, not just Peter. Sorry to all of you for the for the small crisis here, but we're just going to go on and move along to ocean pollution.
Yeah, it's a live event. Thank you, Peter. For now, thank you very much. Like I already said, all the information will be provided on Miro, and it's a live event, so I think anything can happen, and I'm really that makes it more lively. So I'm happy about that. It's really everything's great. So let's hear the second topic.
Yes, so let's talk a little bit about ocean pollution. And as I've said already, my main topic will be plastic pollution, but let's just keep in mind that there's several sources of pollution, and I'm going to cover talk a little bit at least about some of them. So to start with this topic, as I said, I've worked on microplastics, which was really, really cool because this is a topic which has been covered a lot already, and I would say all of you already know about this plastic issue we have in our oceans. However, let's start with a couple of hard facts when it comes to plastic in the seas. So around the world, there's around 300 million tons of plastic that's been produced every year, and up to 13 million tons of plastic enter the oceans every year. So that's almost 5%, I think it's 4-point-something% of plastic that's entering the oceans of the global amount that's been produced every year. And the plastic that is produced is mainly packaging, or it's just used very, very shortly, single-use plastic. And I don't only mean single-use by cups we use, but also in the industry, a lot of plastic is only used once and then discharged or thrown away after it's done its purpose. And that is the moment when it becomes a potential risk for our oceans. And I think here in Kiel, where we are based, we can all see this issue already when we go out of our doors. And in Germany, we do have a pretty okay waste management system. Anyway, as soon as plastic or garbage lands on our street, we do have wind here, and that is one of the main sources that just blows the plastic which is laying around into the Kieler Förde, where we just cleaned it up the other day. So on Tuesday we had a nice cleanup event to get some plastics out of Kiel's Förde. But anyway, there's several sources, and wind obviously is one of them, as it just takes the plastic items and puts them into the sea. But also rivers collect a lot of plastic when they flow through the country, through the inhabited areas, and kind of just collect the plastic or the waste from different areas and dump them into the sea when they end there. And another issue which we don't have that much here in Germany anymore is open landfills. But when we go to less developed countries, this is actually a really big source of plastic or garbage in general, as again, the wind might take it, or it's just super closely built to the ocean, and just, the ocean takes garbage from it. And that's another source of plastic pollution into the seas. And you can see that the main source for plastic is from land. However, we also have intake of plastic into the sea, which is happening at sea. So Peter already mentioned it. It's lost fishing gear, but also some container ships do throw their garbage just overboard, as there's many harbors which just don't have a proper system to deal with the garbage that is entering, or the ships do have to pay a huge fee. And so we have around 20% of the global garbage income that is just happening at sea. But let's have a look at where we get the most plastic coming into our oceans. And these purple bars show where we do have poor waste management, where it appears. And I think it is very apparent that this is mainly the case in Asian countries. And they, sorry, they do have also shown in this yellow bar a lot of intake or a lot of plastic that has been entering the seas from there. However, we should not forget that this mismanaged plastic garbage is not always only their fault, but a lot of Western countries, Germany as well, is exporting their garbage to countries just as Malaysia or China. China actually just closed their borders kind of for our plastic waste, but they have imported a lot of plastic waste from Western and much more developed countries. And so we actually contributed to this huge, to this huge source of plastic income into the seas by, not dealing properly with our own waste, but bringing it somewhere where we actually know that they just don't have the facilities and not the, not the possibilities to properly deal with the plastic, to recycle it properly or to put it into landfills that are not open and that can actually handle these obviously steadily increasing amounts of plastic garbage. So let's look a little bit more into detail, because plastic obviously is not plastic all the time. And when we come to this plastic issue in general, I think all of you have seen macroplastics. So that is the large plastic items, yes, on the left, which are just shown, that which we can see in the streets, which are washed up at beaches, even here at our German beaches, but obviously almost everywhere where we go to holidays. That's called macroplastics. So that's the bigger macroplastic, the bigger plastic parts that are thrown into the sea, such as bottles or even tires. But another issue is microplastics, which obviously all of you have heard of too. This is on the right, and this is something that's been overseen for a long time in the past, and I think by now everyone knows about this, as it's been reported a lot about microplastics. So macroplastics do have several issues. We all know about entangled sea turtles or whales that's been washed up with their stomachs full of plastic garbage. But the issues of microplastics are much more diverse and much less known. But one thing I want you to know, just to keep in mind and to understand when you read about microplastics, there's two different kinds. So there's something that's called primary microplastics, which you can see on the next slide. It's on the left, and usually it's like little beads, and they are produced in already this microscopic size range. The second and more, I would say, more important part is the secondary microplastics on the right, which is just degrading from formerly large plastic items into these often very, very sharply into these particles with really sharp edges that are very prone to harm animals that ingest them. And there is, I've already told you, so I've worked with mussels, and they are filter feeders. They are sitting on the bottom. They are ingesting a lot of particles in general. And we actually found that they are quite robust to microplastic exposure. But obviously, we don't know what is going on with increasing levels of microplastics in the environment, as they can also work as a vector for several bacteria or toxins. So keep in mind, obviously there is macroplastics, but from macroplastics, this secondary microplastics is kind of emitting into the ocean and might pose a risk to several species in this environment. So when we look into the next slide, this is actually what's been covered in here, to look into some figures. If we would have stopped plastic, or if we would have stopped polluting our oceans with plastic in 2020, which we obviously didn't, we would have had this light blue scenario where at least macroplastics, so the larger plastic items, would have been less present in the surface layer. However, we must keep in mind that plastic, even though it's lighter than, or a lot of plastic sorts are lighter than seawater, is not always in the surface layer, but often it floats in the water column or is already sunken to the ground, where we find actually most of the plastic in the sea. So the surface layer is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. But however, it's the easiest to sample, because quantifying plastic in the ocean is a little bit like finding the needle in the hay, because it's just really, really tricky. Sorry, I need to drink a little bit. So coming back to these scenarios, obviously we haven't stopped polluting the oceans. We haven't stopped producing plastic, and it has been estimated that plastic production will grow and double until 2050. So the more likely scenario is that we will experience the red scenario here, which means that plastic emissions will still grow and our oceans will still be cluttered, and even more cluttered with plastic. And obviously you can see this here on the right side, the microplastics, especially the secondary microplastics, which just degrade from larger items, are going to increase kind of simultaneously. And even if we would have stopped in 2020, there is not just as in the macroplastics such a break, but you can see these macroplastic items, they disintegrate into microplastics, and the problem just shifts from formerly large items into now small items, which we can't see, but we don't really know what's going on and what they might harm in the environment. And even here in the Mariana Trench, we found plastic. So that's the deepest point of the sea. And even there, we humans already left a trace of, what is kind of our favorite thing in the world, because we produce and use so much plastic, which is not a bad thing in general, because plastic, if you might switch to the next slide, Franca, plastic is super, super useful and practical, and our daily life would not be possible to do without it. Every computer we are working on now has some plastic items, or is almost entirely made of it. So we can't really not use it. And that is also a reason why we won't have a treaty to actually ban plastic from being produced, from entering the oceans. Another problem is that the influx of plastic pollution is regulated by states, and there's no like global, it's not regulated globally. And therefore, it will be really, really hard to make like a global, I don't know, I'm missing a word, a global agreement on how to treat plastic waste in the world. I said already, we have this export of waste, so we are just shifting the problems from here to another country. And also this diversity of international, national, and also regional laws on how to treat plastic will make it really hard to actually like have a global agreement on how to deal with this problem. So I think in future it will be quite hard to tackle the plastic problem, and it will definitely be something that is going to accompany us for quite some time. But obviously, I definitely hope that there is something going on, and that this issue will be tackled a little more sufficiently than now. So, and to come to the end of my part of this talk, I just want to give you a really brief overview about what other sources of pollution we might have in the ocean, because obviously plastic is one of them, and it's been readily seen and everyone reports about it. But eutrophication, for example, is another one, but also noise and chemicals which are entering the ocean. Eutrophication actually is, if you can go to the next and last of my slides, Franca, eutrophication, you can see it on the top right picture, is just an excess amount of nutrients in the sea, which leads to a huge growth of tiny, tiny algae, which then color the water green like there. And this obviously has a lot of implications for the ecosystem it is appearing in. So it is just covering the light for every algae, for every seagrass, which is living underneath. And also when bacteria degrade these microalgae, when they die, they do this under the consumption of oxygen. And therefore, eutrophication actually is a huge issue, even though it is less seen and less covered in the media, I would say. And another issue, which is really, which is huge here in our German seas, is the problem of munition. So we have unfortunately participated in the last 2 world wars, and whilst munition is been cleared on land a lot, it's much harder to do this under the sea or under the surface of the sea. And that is why about 2 million tons of munition are just here in our German waters of Baltic and North Sea. And by now they corrodated so much that the chemicals which were inside of the munition are dissolved in or starting to dissolve into the sea and are a potential risk to the surrounding environment. So yeah, just keep in mind that when we talk about pollution, there's not only plastics, even though I provided you with a lot of information about this, and I also put some data into this overview sheet. So I think plastic is something that a lot of people have heard about and might have already have some background information. But if you want to work on another source of pollution of the seas, these might be some ideas you could just check about, and there's a lot of information about them out there too. So yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Celia. So next up is Stephanie.
Yes.
You will be talking about aquaculture. I'm really interested in that topic.
Yeah. Most of you have probably heard about aquaculture already, and I guess most of you in connection with either fish aquaculture, or you heard about the problems if like crabs or similar animals are kept in mangroves, which are destroyed through aquaculture fields there in other countries. So, but aquaculture definitely is more than fish. And it's a very actual topic, because as you heard in the presentation of Peter, it doesn't matter how high the effort in fisheries is. The output does not increase anymore. So many people say aquaculture may be our savior for having a cheap protein source for the human population on the world. But aquaculture is more than fish. It's of course fish farms on the open sea, but it may be also mussel cultures or algae cultures in aquaculture, also on the land side, in the freshwater area like carp ponds. And it can also be inside, and the fishes or animals or whatever is begrown is held in ponds, like in this picture in the middle. But yeah, to the topic aquaculture, is it the solution or not? We will focus now on the topic fish aquaculture. And we have to separate between 2 fish kinds or fish groups. One is the coarse fish, which eats only very small animal like plankton. And plants also, zooplankton and yeah. The smaller ones and no other fish. That's the main topic. And predator fish rely on a protein source which is based on fish mainly. So if we keep predator fish in aquaculture, we need to feed them with fish. And there's a lot of science going on to try how we can reduce the fish content of the feed best to get it towards zero. But actually it is also proven that you cannot put the fish feed out of the predator food, because the fishes get sick if you do that. So we rely on a big part on fish oil or fish flour to be put in the food of these predator fishes. And there's a big problem, because to receive only 1 kg of a predator fish, you need up to 20 kg fish in the food to be fed and to grow the predator fish until we can eat it. And 20, I mean the numbers really differ in a bright range. 20 kg is needed to grow a tuna, like here on the picture. So it's on the upper range, and science is going to reduce the needed fish down to 1 kg for a kg of salmon. And so not each fish species is the same if you go to this view in aquaculture, but definitely there's a main problem, and we need to fish the wild fish to feed the aquaculture fish. So it's no release to the wild fish populations if we go for aquaculture of predator fish. So that's the main point for this. It's really a big problem, and most people don't think about this fact. Thanks, Franca. Next one now. But there are also other problems with aquaculture, not only of fish, but also of other animals and also plants, actually. Animals need to be treated with medicine if they get sick. And it's animal welfare connected with this topic, because the more animals you keep in a pond, the higher the risk to get sick, and the higher is the risk that you have to use medicines, antibiotics especially. And if you do treat fishes in open ponds, like in the most cases, the medicine obviously gets into the open water as well, and also treats healthy fishes in this way. So this is a main problem connected to aquaculture. And actually you may have even heard of the fact that the Norwegian government told their own people to be very careful to eat fish from aquaculture of their own country, especially if they're pregnant or older, because the medicine parts in the fish is so high. So this is definitely a big problem. Then also you heard from Silja that one of the problems is eutrophication in our seas, not only in the Baltic Sea, but in all of the seas. And fishes and also food rests or food leftovers dilute into the open water and make the problem of eutrophication even higher. So it's not really compatible also with our laws, which say that we have to get the marine environment in a good state, or again. So it doesn't fit together. Also, if there is a storm, we also see escapers from the open nets, and they may mix with the natural populations of the same species, and or even be there as a neophyte.
Neophyte or neozoa?
Neozoa, thanks. I was missing the word. So this is a problem, and we also experienced it also already in the North Sea. You see a picture here. It's a Pacific oyster, and it escaped from aquaculture, I think also even from a German aquaculture, and the original oysters, the European oysters, disappeared in the meanwhile completely, also because they had problems with parasites and sicknesses. So we find Pacific oysters everywhere in the North Sea now, and this is due to bad aquaculture capture. And we have also problems like parasites and sicknesses being transferred to the wild population, and some of the fishes are already treated with gene alterations, and if they escape and mix with the natural population, it's really a big problem because it's not meant to be like that. Yeah. But let's have a look on positive sides of aquaculture, because there are some possibilities to have a positive one. One would be, of course, to use coarse fish only and not the predator fish. So because in this way, we do not rely on the wild fish populations anymore. It would be also a possibility to replace the fish oil and stuff for the feed through insects, and the EU opened ways to do so some years ago, because they allowed 6 insect species to be used for food, but still it's not really a step forward in the economic and also in the science to how to use the insects for the food. And we could also go for extractive species like mussels or algae, because they would contribute positively also to aspects like eutrophication. Or another thing which is also very nice for the future is to connect it with closed systems. Closed systems where the animals are kept in ponds are at the moment quite expensive, because you need the energy mainly to heat the water, to keep the water clean, and that's very costly. So the products out of closed system aquaculture are more expensive than others, but it's improving. And like in Kiel, there's this production which is connected to a wastewater treatment, and they use the heat which is created there to heat their water. So this is a possibility to make the production costs a little bit lower. Next photo, please. And also quite a good idea, I think, is to do aquaponic. Aquaponic means that you have fishes, for example, in a pond, and they have the nutrients overflow in the water, which normally would lead to eutrophication. But in this case, I would say dirty or water is used to grow plants instead. And so afterwards you have a cleaned water again, which can be used for the fishes. So it's kind of circle for the water, and you hardly need any fresh water. So that's very friendly for the environment, and would be a win-win situation. So this was only a short introduction in aquaculture. More could be said also to the techniques which can be used. So if you're interested in working on this topic, feel free to ask me for further information, or also go to the links which will be presented on your board. Thanks.
Thank you, Steffi, for this cool and super interesting insight. And I think this is, I already said, I'm super interested in that topic, because it's a topic that's not so popular in media, which is, I think, super interesting, and might be our future. Who knows? I'm curious. So next up is Franka, who will talk about climate change and geoengineering.
Yeah, hi, thank you. So I'll try and keep it short, because we've already gone over time. So climate change and geoengineering. So climate change is probably nothing that you're not familiar with. I think at the latest, after Fridays for Future has become so popular, everybody knows that climate change is in fact real and does matter. But still, I've inserted one slide to stress why that is the case. So physical and planetary stress come to mind, of course. So CO2 emissions are the highest on record. Atmospheric CO2 concentration is the highest on record. The global average temperature is the second highest on record. The Southern Hemisphere's temperature is the highest on record, and sea level rise are the highest on record as well as the global sea ice extent is the lowest on record. And if you've sort of read about climate change and the Arctic, then you know that this is actually critical and could increase those points above even further. With that comes an increased financial stress. We have high insurance losses and something that I call transition costs. So, for example, for new energy systems and stuff like that we're trying to implement to transition from a less to a more sustainable way of adjusting to climatic changes. We also have financial market instability, which is something that you don't find so much or that is not talked about so much, but there are more and more publications that cover this. We also see different politics and we see different preferences. So more and more people go and buy electric cars, even if that's not the most environmentally friendly thing to do, but still that is more environmentally friendly than the other options that we have. And we also see more people that consume different sorts of food that produce less CO2 emissions. We have political mainstreaming. So we have the Paris Agreement that probably all of you have heard of, that says that we need to keep our temperatures well below 2 degrees. And we've recently had some progress in that regard, especially when we look at the German politics. I know that some people are from Denmark, but you may have heard that we've recently won a case in court against our government that says that the climate politics need to be more ambitious. Then we have the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, that tackle climate change and environmental issues and also contribute to a more sustainable lifestyle worldwide. Most of the countries have ratified this, even though it comes with a lot of let's say voluntary agreements that are not monitored closely. So there also are shifts in water and agricultural policies, and that is important for eutrophication and other matters that concern the ocean. So I just wanted to give you these arguments again, because sometimes still there are people who doubt that climate change is real and does matter, but it does. So some hard facts again here on climate change and the ocean, just to brush up on that. I've said here that this is a two-way street. So if we talk about climate change, we always talk about ocean change, and we always talk about an ocean crisis. Because the ocean currently absorbs a quarter of the CO2 released into the air. And if that increases, then of course the ocean has to absorb more. And then also there's, at some stage, there's a limit to that. When the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere rises, the ocean absorbs that to restore the balance. And over the last 40 years, the ocean has absorbed an astounding 93% of excess heat. And absorbing excess heat leads to progressive acidification of the ocean, while absorbing excess heat and contributes to rising sea levels and troubling changes in marine ecosystems. So you see, if there's a climate change crisis, we also have an ocean crisis. And something that people have come up with is geoengineering. And when I first heard about that, I think some 10, 15 years ago, it was still science fiction. And it was something where I was hoping that it would never come up again and that we would find a way to adapt and mitigate climatic changes, but we haven't. And now a lot of people talk about geoengineering, so the altering of climatic systems as their plan B. We have two different ways of doing that, and we discuss different technologies. One is carbon dioxide removal. So we talk about this, and maybe you've heard it as something that is talked about as negative emissions and negative emission management. And I've put a graph here that shows different options of how to do that. And carbon dioxide removal or carbon drawdown aims to address the primary human sources of climate change, so CO2, by removing this permanently from the atmosphere, for example, to store it underground. or also to just deal with it by afforestation because they absorb CO2 as well, or by ocean fertilization, which is something that I will talk about in a little bit more detail in a little bit. But before doing that, I will talk about solar radiation management, which is the more science fiction-esque scenario, so to speak, with geoengineering, and has really not been tested before. In fact, most of the options and negative emission management options that I'm introducing here have not really been applied, but are regulated. In fact, the only thing that is internationally regulated is ocean fertilization, are regulated because if you insert something in the climatic system in some place in the world, it will affect all other places because we live in a complex, interlinked climatic system, and we can never just change something somewhere and not affect changes elsewhere. So, but coming back to solar radiation management, what this does is basically this tiny thing here. So we have something like giant reflectors in the orbit, or we have cloud seeding that help to reflect more sunlight back into space, or allow more infrared radiation from Earth to escape in order to reduce the Earth's temperature, and so limit the warming that we're experiencing because of climate change. And it includes numerous proposed methods which differ, but none of them, as I said, are ready for deployment. So to talk about ocean fertilization, because we're talking about the ocean today, that is the promotion of algae bloom and thereby the capture of greater amounts of CO2 with those algae. We have certain drawbacks, and ocean fertilization is something that has been tested. There have been, I think, there are currently 16 or 17 different test stations for that, and there has been an agreement that we don't go beyond that, and anything that is transnational is banned. So the drawbacks that can be listed and crush the hope that ocean fertilization can be our plan B for the planet is that the types of plankton cannot be controlled. In addition, may lead to toxic blooms. Ecological impacts on the marine, food web, and fisheries have been recorded and have been modeled. And as I've heard from Mathias, you may be interested in data. You can definitely find some data on that. The sequestration potential is unlikely to exceed 1 gigaton carbon per year, and that is something that we would need to go beyond that to have an impact and to actually do what we want to do with geoengineering, namely reduce the impact of CO2 emissions and keep polluting our planet. So the plan B that would allow us to just stick to the status quo doesn't really work until now. So another thing that we see is very high levels of uncertainty associated not just with ocean fertilization, but with all of the technology introduced as part of the geoengineering options that are currently being discussed. To finish off, an ecological risk for a relatively small sequestration potential basically for most people would mean that we just completely disregard ocean fertilization altogether, but we don't, because actually we need a plan B for our climate, and that is something that puts us in a difficult spot. A lot of the scientists are currently saying that we can't meet the 1.5 degrees of warming target that we've set with the Paris Agreement because our policies are not ambitious enough and because our economy doesn't really transition to a new and more sustainable state. So geoengineering is something that is still being discussed and still being developed, even though the uncertainties surrounding it and the difficulties that come with the implementation of geoengineering are quite critical. Because as geoengineering measures can have global impact, global regulation would be necessary, and we don't have that up until now. And if you've kept a close eye on the discussions around climate change, it's so difficult to come to an international agreement on anything, really. And I think all of us can relate to that. If we're in a bigger group, it's so hard to make a plan for something. And if you think about coming to an international stage and making up your mind that everything has to change in order to benefit the planet's climate, it's really hard to come to an agreement. So no geoengineering measures have been taken up until now. There is a limitation to research, but we need to keep a close eye on geoengineering and actually have to make it more public in the discussions, because it's been developed as a plan B for a climate. And that is underscored by the perceived lack of urgency that some people feel to change their behaviors because they're hoping for a tech solution that might come to the rescue. And I can just assure you that geoengineering certainly is no silver bullet and cannot save the planet. Some questions that you might ask yourself when you look at geoengineering, I've put them up here, is how might that affect marine environment? What are the environmental impacts of massive mineral extractions? What happens to the people who need to grow food on the land where we put up more trees? Does it make ecological sense? And how could one find enough land to make these options viable? And how could one scale it up safely from these test sites that we're currently seeing? So basically, all of the questions surround this one question: how does society decide on the mix and scale of activities to remove CO2 required to keep warming under and well below 1.5 degrees, which would be necessary to just keep a planet healthy? One last slide. Governing, so the regulation of large-scale carbon dioxide removal. Are we ready? To limit the warming to 1.5 degrees, scientists say we must cut emissions faster and must remove CO2 that is already in the air. So sort of they're giving us this hint that what we're currently doing is not enough and will not be enough to meet the targets that we've set with the Paris Agreement. We probably need to remove hundreds of gigatons of CO2 by in the next 70 or so years, and right now we emit around 40 gigatons a year, and this is a massive challenge thus, and the slower we cut emissions, the more we have to remove. There are nature-based and tech-based approaches, and none of them are risk-free, none are ready to scale, and all of them do need governance, which we don't have yet. There's some international guidelines to address this, but this is not enough, and policy makers need to fill the governance gap. And I would add that not just policymakers need to make this, but governments, businesses, and civil society need to come together and make a global effort to make this happen. And also, and what this basically means is that all of you and all of us need to start talking about the ways to remove carbon dioxide removal. And we need to talk about something that seems like science fiction, but might not be in the future. So geoengineering is definitely something to keep an eye on. And that was that. Thank you for listening.
Wow, thank you. First of all, big applause and for you guys. Thank you so much for all the information. This is a lot to grasp, I have to say.
Yeah, we're really sorry.
No.
There's so much to cover.
In a good way. But it's, I mean, the whole impact, the whole extent of the information you gave us already can give us a glimpse of what is coming towards us in a really quick pace. So really, and that gives me the good feeling that this events like these, where we come together, where we as communicators, as problem solvers, as designers, and I count you four in this group, is that you also I want to continue in German. You as well are designers of our future, and this is super. I get the feeling that events like these are really necessary, and we need more of them. So thank you for everything, for your motivation and for your work. And we all got so much information now. We had so much input. So I think it's time to, as a next step, to output something, to have the first output session. And before we get into asking questions, I would say that we will have a little brainstorming session now. So, because I think all the information is still going around in your minds, and I think it would be good to, if there are already ideas coming up, to fix those ideas, to just provide them for the other participants, and thus I would prepare a breakout session now. Uh, First of all, you will have 5 minutes for yourself to just anything that came up in your mind, just to take notes on Miro. Before we start, I will show you where exactly to put your sticky notes with your ideas. Let me just screen share this. First of all, we have all the information and further links in the Miro board already labeled with the topic. So please now, in the 5 minutes, go onto Miro, use a sticky note, and put down all the thoughts, all the ideas I'm talking about, already maybe concepts for visualization, and share those ideas with the others on the topic that we already heard. So we can later go back, or you can go back later and get inspired by all the ideas, all the potential that you will collect in here. So I will stop the screen saving, and we will kick you out into a breakout room, and get you back in 5 minutes. Please use the time now to, like I said, to take a sticky note and put your ideas on the sticky note, put them on the board, and we will meet in 5 minutes back in Zoom for the next round. Okay. Take a little time and to prepare the breakout session, but we will be ready in just a bit. So I hope it's working. I hope you're all in the breakout sessions. Nicht beigetreten.
Hello there.
Hey, Micha.
It's me, myself, and I in the breakout room for me, myself, and I. Could you just kick me in a breakout room with people? Because I think I was the leftover, and then I get automated.
Okay. So we need one more. Yeah. Well, you could just take 5 minutes off and just go into Miro. We don't really actually need the breakout rooms. That's just so.
Okay.
You can just jump into Miro and use the next 5 minutes
Yeah.
to write down your thoughts. For the next breakout session, we will put you together with somebody else, so then you will be in a group.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be that, but maybe I was.
Sorry, that's
the people count, I think, was not.
Yeah.
Even
that's
whatever.
That's true. Sorry, first time.
Yeah, no worries. I had that in studies on the FH.
Yeah. Okay.
Funny then, but whatever.
So jump into Miro, and yeah, I'll see you back in 5 minutes.
See ya.
Hi Franka. Sorry,
Gibst du uns noch den...
auch in den Breakout Room
okay.
rein. Das war
ich habe nämlich gerade hier noch Nachrichten von den anderen, die, glaube ich, auch sich fragen, wir sind nur also Steffi fragt, sind wir bis 16 Uhr eingebunden?
Nein, seid ihr nicht.
Nee, okay.
Ihr seid, ich würde jetzt, also genau, das war auch eine Frage von mir. Ihr könnt gerne euch jetzt entscheiden, auch zu gehen, weil, also ich würde jetzt gerne diese Breakout-Session machen, damit die Leute wirklich Ideen sammeln können. Und wir können da, ich hätte danach irgendwie Fragen stellen wollen, also oder die Fragen stellen lassen. Das ist ein bisschen die Entscheidung, aber es wird jetzt vielleicht 30 Minuten dauern insgesamt. Und dann hätte ich sozusagen eine Fragerunde gemacht, aber wir können das auch komplett lassen heute, weil es morgen ja das Mentoring gibt.
Also wie du meinst, ich habe jetzt den anderen geschrieben, ich glaube, ich würde es gut finden, ich habe jetzt den anderen geschrieben, ich würde es gut finden, wenn sie vielleicht nochmal nach der Breakout-Session da sind, falls es Fragen gibt. Vielleicht kann man das ja direkt machen.
Ja, das können wir vielleicht jetzt direkt machen. Dann
genau,
die zweite Runde nach der Fragerunde. Dann seid ihr früher auch fertig. Dann ist es ja für euch auch entspannter.
Gut, okay. Dann sage ich Ihnen mal, dass Sie auch aus den Breakout-Rooms raus können.
Ja, Entschuldigung, das war gar nicht klar, dass ihr mit reinkommt.
Alles gut, ich war mir ganz unsicher, ob noch jemand reinkommt, deshalb habe ich kurz gewartet und dann saß ich aber alleine in einem und dachte, okay, dann komme ich wieder zurück.
Ja,
okay.
das war...
Gut, ich schreibe mal den anderen.
Ja, danke dir.
Klar.
Ja, sorry Stefanie, dass ihr mit rein in der Breakout-Session gelandet seid. Das war nicht ganz geplant. Franka hat ja schon geschrieben, wir machen jetzt gleich Fragerunde. Geht gleich los.
Ja, ja, kein Problem. Ich bin ja auch wieder rausgekommen.
Genau, wir haben jetzt noch eine Minute. Und dann machen wir eine kleine Fragerunde und dann geht die nächste Breakout-Session. Könnt ihr auch schon rausgehen.
Matthias, soll ich dir die Folien auch gleich nochmal schicken? Von eben? Willst du die auch aufs Miroboard packen?
Bitte nochmal? Entschuldigung, das habe ich...
die Folien von eben, soll ich dir die einmal schicken, dass du die aufs Miroboard
Gerne,
packen?
genau. Die kommen dann hoch, die lade ich dann auch alle in Miro rein. Danke dir. So, yeah, you're all back. Okay, so you now had the opportunity to put down your first ideas and thoughts. Now, if you like, we have, you will have the chance to ask our scientists and specialists questions, things you didn't understand, things you might need if you want to go on and think about a creative concept. So if you have a question, please raise your little virtual hand and I will call you up and you will get the mic.
Keine Frage.
So, but if you don't have any questions right now, if you can't think of anything, don't worry. We'll have, like I already said, you will have you will get the chance to ask your questions tomorrow during the mentoring session at 3 p.m. So if you just want to get going and want to already start on your concepts and your further ideas, that's no problem. We will have the chance tomorrow. But now, of course, would be the possibility, the opportunity to ask your questions directly as they might arise. Sometimes it needs some time to think about, but obviously right now you might be a little bit overwhelmed with all the input. That's no problem. No, I thought there was a hand. No. Okay, so yeah. So let me before we send you into the next breakout rooms together and in teams of 2, where you can further discuss or think of ideas. I would love to say thank you. Thank you, Ocean Summit. Thank you, everyone, for this, for your time, for the input, for your work, for all the effort you put into this event so far. I'm really grateful for everything. And I'm happy, would be happy to welcome you on Sunday for the final presentations. And yeah, now let's, there's nothing else to say than to wish you a very nice weekend. Enjoy the ocean and the sun, and yeah, see you hopefully on Sunday.
And tomorrow, of course, as well. Yeah.
Right, of course.
Yeah, have pleasure and fun with the topics. I'm very curious. So if you have questions which arise, and if it's something very important, you may also write an email. Maybe we check in the meanwhile or something. So come forward to us. You're welcome to do so.
Okay,
Yeah, thanks for having
the email
us.
address on my row again.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Bye bye.
Sunday.
Have a
For your time.
productive
Thank you.
weekend.
Bye.
Tomorrow.
Bye.
Well, so now we're back to business. Let us now we're grouping in smaller groups, so you can work out an idea already, or just discuss your thoughts with somebody else. You will get 10 minutes in a breakout room together. And again, I would like to encourage you to write down these thoughts just next to talking in, and write them down in my room. So we will have lots of input, lots of materials, lots of creative thoughts to work with later on. I will start the breakout session now.